Hi, we are live. It is live. And this is Global Party Healing from the Inside Out. And Leah Foley is bringing balance back into healthcare. Just like that, the vision has been called in.
And this is the last one of the Global Healing Party. So Jacqueline will be going to bed very soon because I believe it's midnight for her over here. And over here it's just 1 o'clock. So normally when we have these conversations, I'm at night and she's just waking up in the morning. So this is unusual. I think it's unusual for me because I'm used to it being dark and having a midnight chat with Jacqueline. And today I'm having an afternoon chat. So and then Jacqueline's going to dream about all the beautiful things that have been talked about the last 14 hours.
It is. And maybe this is it, right? We've just bringing balance back into healthcare. We've just balancing out. I'm in night, you're in the afternoon. You know, it's like we're shifting things. And I do kind of feel it's kind of cool that there was a large contingent from Australia on this party, you know, and it's that southern hemisphere and the northern hemisphere. And there was conversations about the two sides that were coming up, two sides polarity. A lot of people talking about experience, and you have your choice between what do you want to focus on. And I'm wondering, what is the world going to be called when there isn't a northern hemisphere or a southern hemisphere? You know, when we're just the world.
The world. Yep, the world. Yeah, that's a really good point you made about that, because I guess that's how I've been looking at, you know, I started off with health issues, and then obviously, well, actually, so like, you know, I'm half Chinese, half Australian. I guess if Australian's not really a heritage, I guess the white Australian versus like the real First Nations Australian, but you could say European, right? So then I've always sort of grown up with that dichotomy in me, even though I on the outside I don't really I look white. And then so my growing up with the health issues, on one hand we had the medical system and my parents going, and their allergies were just starting to be explained or understood that they even existed, and that our environment can affect the health of an individual. And then on the other hand, my earliest memories is like crying because the acupuncturist is showing me a needle. I don't know why you would show a kid a needle, but I'm going to put this in you. Oh my God. And my previous memory was like a vaccination or something. I remember Mum getting me a vaccination. I think we might be going overseas or something. So like I had to, anyway, it turned out the needle didn't hurt and it wasn't a big deal. But I mean, and then going to a herbalist in China, or in Hong Kong, sorry, and getting my pulse taken, thinking they're taking it for my pulse and heart rate, never understanding why and why they want to look at my tongue, until in my 20s and 30s when I investigated deeper, I was they have a completely different way of viewing health, and they're doing the same actions with a completely different. I'm amazed. I haven't tried feeling the pulse, like being taught that, but how they can feel the difference in the energy, like, you know, your energy's over energized or something, just from feeling the different points in the body and the sensitivity they could feel. Anyway, so I grew up with those two worlds, and then I sort of tried a few things, and then I could you say denounced the medical system? I went really extreme and denounced them, and you know, because they kept telling me that I was incurable and you're just going to have to live with this your whole life, and
like, oh yeah, no, just
which I understood, like from the medical practitioner's point of view, is that they didn't want to say something that was incorrect. But then another part of me was just like, no, there must be, why me then? You know, like, why me having to just deal with this as my fate versus another person who hasn't? And it's like, yeah, so then there was that struggle. So then I went hyper alternative. And I don't know, at some point, I guess a series of things happened. And then I realized that it's not about us or them. There is no, like, you need to join one camp or the other.
Right.
Why not have both? Do you get that ad in Canada.
Why not have both?
Yeah, the little kid with the nacho. They go, which nachos should you have? Which tacos should you have? Should you have a certain, I don't know, I obviously haven't paid attention, but they were going, which one should we choose? And this little kid comes up and goes, why not have both? And then they all have a party afterwards. And it's, yeah. Anyway,
so I don't know what the other part of that, but why not have both? I know I've heard that as a catchphrase, you know, like one or the other, why not have both, right?
Yes, and if you do the GIF on Facebook, you'll see like this little kid and they're all like have her on her shoulders and everyone's partying because they can have both types of tacos. So, yeah, it's like, well, why not have both types of tacos? Why not be able to take the best from the medical system and the best from the holistic alternative if you want to use alternative? I even find myself saying that and going, that's a strange
word to say, right?
Yeah, considering a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them were before the medical system even existed as we know it now. So, yeah, I'm trying to...
Hold on. Isn't that kind of like us going, well, you know, Canadians, Australians, us white people, like we founded these countries, right?
Yeah.
Where the you know, the Aboriginals and the natives were here first. It's like the alternatives were here before the medical system. Like we really did get, you know, finagled into believing something other than truth.
Yeah, I was thinking that today. It's so interesting how you pointed that out because I was thinking that today. I was like, oh, well, we were only founded in 1788. And I just went, oh, did I just think that? I didn't say it out loud. Well, I just said it out loud now. But I was just like, I was looking in the kitchen.
Don't tell anybody. She didn't say that.
God, did I just think that? But that's how much we've conditioned ourselves to believe that, or, that they talk about whitewashing history and things like that. So, and that is definitely how we are educated in Australia to think that way. And that I think the big movement at the moment, I feel like there has been a big shift in movement where people are before it was like, it's not like the Aboriginals, First Nation people have been not spruiking about this for ages. This is not the first. They're suddenly talking about it. They're not suddenly talking about it. They've been saying the same thing. They haven't changed their message, but suddenly an opening has happened through, you know, the event with George Floyd, and it just seemed to create this wave that hit a tipping point that seems to have made some type of change in awareness. Where it will go, I don't know at this point, but change is good. Change is uncomfortable, but change is good, even if it might go a little bit backwards at first. But it's like we're finding new foundations, we're finding new feet, and then we're reinventing things. And then hopefully, in time in Australia, the educational system will reshift so that it won't be like Australia was formed in 1788 when the convicts arrived. No. It was a white colonization formed in 17. Before that, but anyway.
Okay.
He was before that, but anyway, don't worry. It's boring. Australian history is quite boring. Well, the white colonization part's boring. Anyway, so what were we talking about before? Yeah, so then the balance, the yin and yang, right? So like the yin and yang, even like night and day, even northern, southern hemisphere, and how our seasons flip. And all that, and it's like, well, that makes up the whole of something greater. And so, and I guess you could say the majority, there has been an imbalance at the moment, an imbalance towards the medical system. But that being said, there is definitely more openness to holistic healing that wasn't there. Perhaps I'm not even clear when, but maybe, you know, 60 years ago, I don't think it would be strange to consider having acupuncture in Australia. And yet now there's acupuncturists everywhere, and, you know, it's not an uncommon thing to mention acupuncture and people having pictures of needles and people's bodies, whereas maybe 50, 60 years ago it'd be like, oh my God, what kind of weird woo-woo juju thing are you doing to, or you're getting some kind of demonic healing, or I don't know what people made up back then, but it was a bit strange then, and now it's normal. And so you talk about this a lot, right? The new normal. things like what's the new normal? Oh, we talked about that recently. Hey,
Right. Yeah.
So, and what's the new normal? Well, yeah, things are shifting. I guess it's the normal for now, and it possibly could become even better in the future, and that's what I'm hoping, envisioning for.
Well, I feel like it's this idea of when you say holistic system and the allopathic system, right? It's
Yes.
right now the allopathic pharmaceutical system is in most of the whatever you want to call them, because it's not just the Western world, but in the G20, it's definitely overshadowed the rest of the rest of the system, the rest of the practitioners. And I do see that the media machine, or whatever you want to call that element of the old structure, still kind of pushing, well, the only way we're ever going to get out of this crisis is that one-size-fits-all vaccine. And yet I've discovered, I've actually been on LinkedIn for a little bit, and people have been posting some things, and I started just posting. I just started commenting and saying, they can say all they want about that they're going to do this vaccine, and this is, ultimately it's going to come down to people choosing. And by the time that vaccine comes along, or however many different versions they have, I do feel that so much more will have changed, and people are going to have to, sure, people will pick it, right, in some cases, and other people will say no. And there might be an issue, just like on the streets right now, it's that, but that is in the sense, the healing crisis, just like we're doing a healing crisis in our own bodies, right? It's it's bringing it into balance, which is what your vision is. And I'm saying it's right here, right now, in this party, that it's declared that it has become the new law that there will be balance in healthcare for everybody.
No, it's a good point about that, actually. Because as you're talking, it's like, well, in the westernized, the G20, it's kind of gotten that. But then in other countries, like in many places in Africa, not all African countries, I had an African friend in uni and probably my first one. So when I used to say Africa, she used to get up me. It's like, Leah, Africa's not a country. And I was like, oh, what? It's a continent. It's a continent. I'm like, oh, okay.
How many countries does it have? It has like 54 countries or something. Like, it has a lot. I'm going to Google. It has a lot.
I don't know the actual number, but definitely I've started learning a lot more of the different countries, because especially there, they all have different cultures in every country. They were all formed from different tribes. And and so to call them, Australia, it's hard with Australia because we are an island, so it kind of, people, I guess, merge New Zealand with us, and that New Zealanders don't like that. But in general, we are an island, so maybe it's an Australian mentality, because we're a continent in itself, sort of. Yeah, but anyway, so what was I talking about? I don't even know.
54 countries
54.
Africa has.
Yeah.
Right? So that's where they go, hello, right? It's the same with it's like, so I usually say I've traveled Eastern and Southern Africa, right? Which is like, because there's 10 or 12 countries. But Australia, like, now you've switched to, because I grew up believing Australia was a country and a continent.
Yeah, we're Pacific Asia.
But now and so does that include New Zealand? And
it definitely includes New Zealand. I think that there's some Pacific nations also. And then there's a line, because a lot of the Pacific islands, some like Hawaii, is America, and there's other ones that are France and things like that. So but then we're saying that so there's all the different countries in Africa, and then they have also non-mainstream, non-westernized healing that they've relied on for beyond centuries.
Right.
I don't know the actual date, but and then I know that the vaccine companies are coming in wanting to test and things like that. And there's I'm not sure about all countries, but there are some countries in Africa that are really pushing back on that, because there's also like it's like a invasion almost. It feels like an invasion, and it's also impinging against their belief systems and what they hold. So it's kind of like it's happening in different ways on different areas. But and so then the whole vaccine thing and one size fits all and all that, like, I don't know, at the back of my mind, I'm kind of thinking that the virus is going to replicate itself out, which is kind of what SARS-1 did.
Right.
And so then by the time they were getting close to getting a vaccine, it just replicated out. And so it's kind of like human nature is so driven by attention that they're experiencing. And it's like, so everyone are only moving towards a vaccine because they're trying to find a solution or a cure to a current circumstance that they don't really like or they're not willing to adjust to. And then if that wild card disappears by itself somehow, because it can do, that's a possibility, it may not, there's no need for the vaccine. There's no need for that. A lot of people are worried over here about being forced to have the vaccine, like it being mandatory. And there is this movement, and I'm not meaning like a positive revolutionary movement. There is a movement in the background of legislating things and in a way systemizing it so that a lot of people who are impoverished are forced to vaccinate to keep getting government payments and things like that, or to get the benefits that was originally for everyone to receive. And then, people aren't really happy about that. So there's a lot of flu vaccine enforcement at the moment, which blows a lot of people who aren't pro-vaccine. It blows a lot of their minds about that, because it's like, we're not dealing with flu, we're dealing with COVID.
Right.
Why are you making us all have flu vaccines? So, but, it's a contentious subject in itself. But the balance that I envision is that not to remove the medical system, because it has its place. It saved many lives, but bringing in a more consolidated, holistic system, network, that brings that balance of yin and yang, and then it naturally balances itself, rather than trying to like stop the medical system doing it. As you start bringing in more choices, you're talking about choices and people having options. The more options that we have and the more that we value those options, the more freedom that we experience.
I would love it is if someone went to see an allopathic doctor and the allopathic doctor said, you know what, you've got XYZ, and all I know is I can't help you anymore, right? It's like, if that's the case, it's incurable from everything I know. However, I am aware that there's other things out there. I can't talk to them, right? I can't speak to them, but I know, like, it's like there's the door open to say there's other things, and I'm telling you there's other things. And I don't have to recommend other things if I actually, if we get to that point, which would be great. But if they just kept the door open, so somebody it's because they wait for the doctor's permission, right? What the doctor says, I'm sorry, I give you 6 months. They're like, to me, that goes against thou shall do no harm, because they've just given them a death sentence, right? It's the words are, he told me I only got 6 months, right?
Yeah.
Some
and
people,
it can happen. That really can happen. Yes.
Yeah.
What do they call it? Like, not a placebo, but a nocebo. It's the opposite. Like, a placebo gives them like a hope. And then even though the thing itself isn't effective, their will of their mind and whatever consciousness beyond what we could even comprehend as like little humans somehow creates that shift that seemed impossible. The nocebo is the opposite. You say something and the belief of that creates a reality inside of you, or experience that some people die within that time frame. I think there are people, there actually are doctors who do that, but the system itself doesn't value the holistic. So I do read some pages and they go, like say eczema is my thing from childhood, right?
Right.
And it's like, and you also, you have experiences of this as well. You have your own story about that. And so I have read some, and I've read some books where they talk about, well, this is how the medical system approaches it and what they believe. But then there has been cases who have had benefit from Chinese herbs, or that, like, they really do make a short mention. It's like a small disclaimer, but but that shows some hope. And then my allergy specialist that I saw in my 20s, there's a whole backstory to how I came to see him, but I saw him and he did all the allergy prick tests to work out what was wrong. He kind of told me I had to stop being a vegan. Because I was so ill. Like, I don't know how I didn't die then. Actually, I thought I was taking care of myself, but I was not taking care of myself in any way. And I had like infected weeping skin all over my body, and I had like a small child, and I don't even know. I used to sleep in my lectures at uni because I couldn't sleep at night because you're like ripping at yourself. Anyway, I saw him and he did all the tests, and he worked out what the key things are to remove. He says, don't remove them all. You can make yourself really sick. He had very slightly alternative points of view, but he was a doctor. And then he got me, he also had an acupuncturist in his wellness center. He got me on this bioresonance machine where I had to like hold these copper rods and put my feet on plates, and I'd spit in a tissue and they'd change the frequency, and I would be just sitting there with this frequency thing. And then like he did other things like, change your pillowcases and stuff because of might show up for you. And so there was various things that he got to change, but he took and I was taking these drops which weren't classic homeopathic, but they had the similar principle, but they weren't classic, like the proper traditional way of constitution. They were like, this is your allergy, let's take a diluted version of that. And I got really well. It didn't hold because obviously I had more things to learn about what health really took, but it gave me the first insight of what it really felt like to be healthy, to really experience pure health without having to wake up each morning and like kind of fix yourself. And, it was like the morning routine and whatever to look normal in society and things like that. So, anyway, I went on another track, but that is an experience in itself, right? That there are individuals and there are holistic, what is it called? Functional medicine, where they bring in a lot of like, so that it's coming. It's just perhaps it's unfair of us healers to want the medical system to change, whether maybe there's something we can do to bring it up. It's like the more you value yourself, the more that your partner values you, it's like coming in. And my vision is that, or what I see is possibly an issue, is that we're all holistic healers working separately rather than a consolidated understanding our place. And I don't mean our place in that you should only work here and you should only work there, but where we work most powerfully, and then coming together and and then cross-referring and just giving our clients the best possible chance for healing in different ways, and really getting down to the root cause. So
there's so much there, right? Like, I mean, in terms of the root cause, is there always a root cause?
That's a whole interesting question, isn't it? I mean, like my concepts, I don't know the answer to everything, but definitely the concepts of the last 6 years or so is that, well, one thing, there's two different things. There's healing and there's health, and they're not necessarily the same thing, but they both can lead to health.
Okay.
So, and then in the healing, if you need healing, it's more like there's a root cause that's getting in the way of an equilibrium in your vehicle. I call it the vehicle. Right. And when you work out, and it's not just one root cause, you can have multiple. And then you can also have the original root cause, and then through the act of your body trying to balance and survive, it creates subroots. I call them subroots. And you need to deal with key spots, and then the structure resolves, and then the natural balance, because your body is always trying to balance itself, right? And so then that's healing. And I through the medical intuition readings that I've done over the years, it's like this consolidation, and I keep changing the number. Like there was 8 and then there's 7. Now there's 6. But anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is not how many root causes, but I've got like 6 categories now. And then I find that certain healing modalities work really powerfully in one of the 6 or in several of the 6. And so then if your root cause actually are those, then that healing modality, you know, is really effective for your condition, whereas someone else has the same condition with a different root cause, and so you won't have the same effect, you know.
Right.
But then there's health, you know, and health is just generally how you take care of yourself. And if you, like, you know, for you not sleeping at the moment, but it's only a once off. It's not like a consistent every day you wear yourself down. It's like, because you take care of yourself, you can do this without affecting your health. Eating the foods that work for your body, you know, even your environment, reducing your stress in relationships, or also financial stress, even, like, you know, changing your relationship with that, dealing with your emotions, being able to, you know, release any anger that needs to be released, feel the grief and ride the waves of that cycle. Like that's like health in a general. And if you work on that too, your level of health improves. So it's like I say work on both depending on what you need. So I can't remember the question that you asked. But, the root cause. Yeah, does everything have a root cause, right? Not necessarily. I mean, I guess if you want to shift something, then there may be something that's stopping the natural balance in order to happen. And that could be all sorts of things. It could be physical, it could be emotional, it could be spiritual, you know, and it's just working out and developing that exploration with yourself to find out what it is for you particularly.
Well, you know, like one of the things when you came up with the title of the topic was, I had a thought that dropped was about the old boys network and how they would, you know, I'm with this kind, you know, they would, the back end deals, right? And in the sense that they're supporting each other. And I thought, so why couldn't we have that same, instead of it being a back end deal? But it's like, yeah, this is it. This is the acupuncturist. This is body matrix, you know, and there is a little bit of knowledge that each doctor, you don't have to go to school for 4 years to learn everything about it. But it's like, you know what does an acupuncture do? They balance your chi, right? Yeah. You know, they have little needles. You know what? That's all I know. Right?
No, it's fine. That's good.
But it's like that's the sense. I mean, I've had acupuncture the same way, but it's like, if that's what they say, so, you know, there's that. There's reflexology, there's Ayurvedic medicine. You know, if they just knew, if somebody said to them, well, what is that? And they go, well, that's like the, you know, what they do in India, right? And that's their ancient tradition. And here is, whether it's, you know, is there an organization? You know, some of them aren't. I know in Canada, for instance, naturopaths are legislated by province. So some provinces have them legislated, but some provinces don't have them legislated, right? They're still like just a practitioner without any body that's overseeing them. So
unregulated, they call it here. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, in some cases, it could be that central point. It could be because we got Google. It could be a directory, you know?
Yeah, Google, I mean, all the doctors use Google now. Like, you see them. I was in the hospital and Dad was there for something a few years back, and she was Googling the nerves of the face. And you're looking, going, oh, but it's true. Like when I started for my medical intuition, I was like teaching that, and I realized I needed to teach like the fundamental structures of the body, so that people, when they receive stuff, go, oh, I'm actually in this part. If you don't know it exists, then you can't recognize it. Right. And then understanding how they interface. And it's hard, like the body's full on, like the amazing complexity of this vehicle that just runs itself, you know, like we have to feed it and do things, but it just keeps us alive and stuff. But yeah, doctors need to look up stuff as well. Yeah. But yeah, so you're thinking, well, why not that they also have some level of knowledge to be able to know how to cross-refer beyond just their own system of the medical system. But yeah, and I guess it's like that where they don't know who to refer to. And so that's, I guess, what my vision is. And I'm sure that there's other people who are running their own vision leading to the ultimate of a balanced healthcare. But my vision is that we consolidate. Healers have a way of consolidating. It doesn't have to be everyone, but those that want to, so that there is a network that we can cross-refer inside of ourselves, teach each other what another modality does and understand deeper. And then they could, even the medical system would be welcome, you know, to come and learn. And if they like, you know, get to know people, and if they feel like they can trust them, you know, or they work together, like real communication where you go, well, this is the stuff that came up, but I'm worried about her thyroid and I really just need you to check because it could lead to something dangerous and it might take a long time for her to have the healing that she requires. So it's like everyone's collaborating together, but also staying in the place where they're most powerful to make the change for the people that come.
Well, that would work really well, right? If they're working in together, because it's like when somebody, I mean, I don't even, I've heard, you know, it's like that you go to see a specialist and they hand over your file, right? And the specialist, you know, sort of is working with the doctor, but essentially the doctor just gets like maybe a report back, right? Like, because the specialist now is the one that is doing the
diagnosis, treatment, whatever. Yeah, that's true. And now they're moving into more a digitalized setup. There's like, you know, so doctors now, instead of this terrible scroll that they do on the thing that you can't read, everything's typed. And like when I do see the doctor, like when I was taking my daughter, like she might have an ear infection and I want, like, you know, I want them to check it out. And then she saw a specialist who fixed it just by basically breaking up the thing and cleaning it, and it solved itself. But I'm watching them and they're like 2-finger typing. I'm thinking these poor older doctors are very old school and don't really use computers, but they're forced to come into the system. But then the system allows that cross-referral, though some people feel a little bit unsafe with that too, like how much information gets, you know, so that there is a care and mindfulness that needs to be done in that. But the ease of transferring so that you can work together.
Oh my gosh, the ease in transferring of working together. And I didn't even notice that Kesha was busy commenting over here to just a second.
Oh, okay. I haven't got the live comments.
No, you haven't got the live comments. So
okay. Oh, geez.
She's like, okay, we got to go back here. Because all of a sudden they're here. I go, oh my gosh. So it's so true. It's different for each individual, and people need to be supported to find the right support. Right. And that is different for each person. So proper caring, supporting referral is important and so profound in many cases and so needed. We need to stop the slips, I guess. Silos. Okay. People need to work together. The silos are being individual, right?
Yeah, and Cash understands because she does the shamanic healing, but then she also works in mental health in the system. And so she's got like both sides that she can experience the positive and negatives, I guess, of both. Like, and I think with us natural healers is that we're very isolated. We learn our modality. We might have a network of our modality, but then we are like alone. Like some people might go into little hubs, but we're not like in the medical system. I see what really works for them is that they have a common standard. And they work to that standard, and then there's that cross-referring and allowing, and they've got that support network. I know that there's issues in there, but that's the positive that I can see that we don't have as natural healers, as holistic healers, and part of it is that we unless I know some savvy healers do cross-refer. But I think the majority of us expect that we have to solve everything for our client. And then the client also expects that. So it's just like, this is catch-22 because, I was talking to someone the other night and it's like, well, I never wanted to work in the field of trauma.
Right.
But I've come to the point now where you get them, like everyone's got a level of trauma, but you get some people who have been so traumatized, and then you don't even realize it till things can go wrong. And having that, some knowledge in that, and then people that you can refer to is a much more powerful way to practice than trying to solve it when, you know, it's not even your area of expertise. So that's not the way you work best, but they have a health condition, because how many health conditions really stemmed from trauma of the past? You know, there's a whole bunch. And then I'm also noticing recently in clients is that how much when they balance their minerals, how much their mental health, the symptoms of their mental health resolve. And so it's like people go, oh, well, I have a physical symptom, so it's a physical root cause, or I have an emotional symptom. It's not really true. It may not be true for, we're such complex beings. Yeah.
Well, I wonder if we're really that complex, right? Or we've just bought into the story that we're so complex, because it's like if I ask somebody ultimately, you know, what do they really want in their life? Usually it's peace, harmony, love, you know, my family to be taken care of. You know, they're pretty basic and simple little answers that, you know, it's not like, oh, I wish I could, you know, have a round the world trip, you know, like it's really usually, I just want my family to be healthy, right? Yeah. Or have it. And so I feel like in balancing healthcare and working them together, it's this idea that everything has got to be looked at in a different way. It's like, how can we help who we're serving, right? So if I'm your client and I've come to you, and then I have like this thyroid issue that you're concerned about, you would think that it would be in the best interests of everybody, right? Because that's the vision that we have, that Kesh can be the doctor, right? And you two then are just like, hey, this is the scoop. I'm going to send her over there, and you're going to do the thyroid test, and you're going to let me know, and then you're going to send that information right back to me, because it's in the best interest of the client, instead of the best interest in the people that are being self-serving.
Self-serving, yeah. Or even like you get stuck with, oh, well, my modality is not working, but it's not the fault of the model that you're using. It's the fault in yourself, and you just need to be a better practitioner, when that's not really the truth. You're doing the best in the slither that, you know, but that particular client needs that, but also needs something else.
Right.
And when they have both of that, then the changes start happening. But you're right. Yeah. Like it actually, like, it's a complex, intricate, amazing being, like that we've got this vehicle. But at the same time, if your solution is really complex, you're probably in the wrong direction. You know, like there's also the dichotomy of the simplicity and the power of the simplicity. And we've talked about it before. It's like, with a lot of your healing as well, it's like when you activate that will, that greater self that can affect changes, you don't need to be micromanaging every little part of you. It all just creates this innate order that it's like, poof, oh, it's a cure, but it was never a cure. It was just you were out of balance,
right? You
know. So anyway, yeah, you might want to share a little bit about that. I don't know, because that's definitely your field of expertise. So.
Well, I mean, to me, that the idea of, I feel that health is ultimately part of presence, right? That is when in the now, health is just it's a building block. It's just there. So when our nose is running or we're coughing, it's because we need to get something out. It's because our body is healthy, because that's how our body is designed to respond. I must admit, I have a difficult time understanding how there is an asymptomatic virus around, because that's natural. Okay, so because it's one of those things in my body that just doesn't make sense, that there is something that's natural that my body's just going to be completely unaware of, that could bother my body, because a feather tickles my nose, I sneeze, it's
just your body's reaction, right? And it's like, and even the medical system is saying this. There's people that have no symptoms. They have no symptoms, or that they have very mild. And then there's other people who are like, their own body response to something is the actual cause of their leading to their death, not the virus. Like the virus might have initiated the response, but in actual fact, it's their own damage that their own immune system did to their body that led to that. That's what they've been suspecting since, we're still learning about what's happened. The thing that bothers me, is that the right word, is that we know from the statistics, or the statistics that we've been told, that the people with the health issues, the chronic conditions, are the ones susceptible. They're either old or and so it's like, and so then they're pushing for a vaccine, which is okay. That's within the medical model. They're just trying to use the model. The downside of the medical system is they're stuck in the model, and when some medical practitioners try to step out, that they can get in deep trouble. They can lose their license, lose their jobs, and things like that. And whereas the holistic, the boundaries are much more fluid, and that's the opposite benefit. But they're working in the best model that they can. But it's like, well, why is it not like I find the holistic healing is the best for chronic health conditions, stuff that you're not about to die. You're not having a leg that needs to be chopped off, or it's broken. That's where the medical system works really well.
Right.
Why not work with holistic healers, improve your health, improve your general health baseline, your chronic conditions reduce dramatically, if not go away, and then you're not susceptible. Like, it's just like, it kind of like it's there blaring in my face, and then I'm like, but nobody's saying that. Everyone's getting upset about masks, or upset about a vaccine, or people protesting and not social distancing, and it's all about that. And it's just like, why are we boosting our general health? Because that seems to be the key solution, or one that I see. I don't know. Anyway.
Boosting, taking responsibility. That's it's a different paradigm for a lot of people, right? They really are used to expecting that somehow they're going to be taken care of, even if they're going to complain about how the government's taking care of them, right?
It's true. It's so true.
It's like, but they're doing that, and
yes,
to me, that's it's another structure that's going to fall apart, because the way our governments are working, they're not necessarily working for us. And when you want to talk about, like Addie, I love his analogy of the white supremacist tree that's growing, that has really, in a sense, has some contributions. Like, if you went to South Africa, they'd be like, well, if it wasn't for us, they wouldn't have all this prosperity, right? And if they hadn't discovered Australia or Canada, we wouldn't have, like, Prince Edward Island would be like, well, we were the ones that built the farm fields, and cleared the land. And we, if it wasn't for us, it wouldn't be that way. So it's easy to say that, oh, we're so great, because that's what happened.
From that perspective, hey. From that perspective, those values, which are different from someone else's values, from a different point of view.
But if we're looking at that whole system, the system doesn't work, right? So it's not like we don't have to just completely chop down the tree, but we have to realize that in governments and in the medical community, and they have advisory boards, or over, in the police, they have these boards have still been, like, whether they just consciously turn a blind eye, or it's because they're their friends, or they're somehow connected. If a woman had complained that the doctor touched her inappropriately, right? It's like, you know what? I don't think so, right?
Yeah, because women were property at some point, and definitely. Yeah, it's true. And I feel like that the problem of that is that the main problem is they get stuck with the way that they know, and then they try and work still within that system, when reality is showing that they need to change the structure now. Like, things need to change, but almost like a a stubborn refusal to shift the bounds of that system. And I mean, like, I think the medical system, yeah, maybe they need to bring it down a notch and go, well, we are most powerful in this aspect of health, but we admit that we're less effective at these aspects, and that there may be something beyond our model, because they have their model was formed in like the germ theory and hygiene. Like Florence Nightingale, I didn't realize how amazing she was at bringing in nursing and bringing in hygiene, and also like how important it is to just like reduce overworking and get rid of sewage inside of the wards, so that people, and that the success rate of people getting better. Like, she had this amazing vision that she dedicated her life to. And then they got the vaccines, you know, and there are some like majorly contagious diseases that we don't ever have to experience now. But it's like they've taken the model too far. It's like they want a vaccine for everything. Next, we'll have a vaccine for depression. It just doesn't, it's starting to go beyond making sense. It's okay. Like, it's not like the model's wrong. It's just like, where is it best used? Right. And then like, it's like almost like a surrendering to that someone else might have something. And then if we work together, how powerful it would be as a collaboration. I know you agree. I'm not like, I'm preaching to the convert.
Like, you're right. But it's like, I don't, what are people afraid of except losing their jobs if they're affiliated with that, right? Like, I mean, it's like cancer research, okay? You know, how much money has been put into that now? And I'm sure there are people that have said, well, like, there's some natural therapies here that could have worked, or there are solutions, but
blinker, you know, blinkers and I think it is about the viewpoint. Like, you know, we've talked before about, like, you know, there's vigilant paradigms of how you deal with health. There's suppressive paradigms and eradicating. And then there's like holistic and integrative ways of viewing. And they're still stuck in like in an old model, which is, and they don't realize that there's another model or way of looking at it. And then even that, there's like, they need everything to be a scientific proof. But before all that, before the medical system as we know now, they relied on observation.
Right.
You know, and that's science in itself. Science is the study of observing how natural laws work, and then I guess documenting it and pulling it to pieces. But anyway, it's got its validity in itself. Yeah, I think they get stuck in that's the only way. And I'm not, on some level, I'm not any different with my own health, right? So like I talked about my biggest shift being when I changed my relationship with myself. Like I stopped looking at the disease existing, which is just a bunch of systems that have been categorized. The disease doesn't exist. Eczema doesn't exist. It's a range of symptoms that are showing. And definitely in my case, it's a systemic imbalance because of certain things that I'm not doing. Like I'm not taking care of myself. Sleeping 4 hours a night for over a week it's like, you know, if you've already got weak links in your body, it's just going to weaken the links further. Whereas I was so sure that there was this cure that would kill this eczema. I'm pretty sure this is how I thought of it. Like eczema is this thing invading my body. Right. As if it's a germ. It's not even a germ. I mean, the staph that can grow on that, yeah, but it's just because the immune system's so imbalanced, it has that opportunity. So it's just like, yeah, but then I moved, something changed. And I was thinking about it this morning. It's like, well, what changed that made me go, oh, it's my vehicle telling me it's unhappy and I haven't been taking care of it the way that it needs. And then I asked, well, how can I take care of you better? And then I do those things that it needs, and then the symptoms go away, you know? And it's just like, oh, okay. And I think it was that when I went, what is health really? Is health diet? Is health a modality like kinesiology? Is that what health is? Is health enemas? Some people do enemas. and detox? Like, is health like put spas that you detox stuff out of and get all your heavy metals out of it? Like, what is health? Is health like stress relief, you know? It took me ages to think about what it was. And it was like, well, health is the relationship that you have with your vehicle. So if you have a poor relationship where you're not giving it what it needs, listening to it, then you're going to tend towards poor health. And if you hear what it needs, you're going to have a tendency to good health. And it's as simple as that. So yeah, I started to change it. Like if I had a rash, I'd be like, oh, how am I not listening to you? And then I start giving it what it needs. So yeah.
Well, so how fast do you think this balance in healthcare is going to
I actually don't think very fast, but I could be definitely wrong because, that could be just the belief system itself. But I guess, yeah. What are your thoughts?
If we just blink like it dries?
Well, sometimes the building and the challenge of building and discovering is part of the fun. Like, we're building something new, and I'm not sure how long, but definitely I have some things that I feel are really important, and I feel like in the holistic realm, developing our intuition is, and all about that. I think that's critical, because if we're going to be forming something beyond our current model, we need to tap into something beyond what our minds can conceive of it, and it probably already exists, right? You're tapping into something, a concept that just wants to be, what's the word, grounded, grounded or made tangible. So, and then I feel like we need that. We also need to understand where all the holistic healings are best placed and where they're most powerful. And then you can cross refer when this person actually needs a lot of emotional work, and these are the healing modalities which are really powerful, or this person has trauma and these modalities are really powerful for that. And just give them the, and then have and sort of educate the client on being able to listen to their own vehicles. That's your emotions, that's your mind, that's your energy, your vitality, and your physical body. And but most of us can't even talk to our own body or emotions, or even understand, or be able, or even believe that we could shift, like we're having this emotional response, and that we can even tune in and know what that's about, and then shift our behavior, and then the whole thing shifts. We don't believe, a lot of us don't believe that's possible. So
that one.
Yeah, and so Kesh was
health is. Did you see that? Okay.
Guess health is created by the right combination of things that help us be healthy, but not any of those individual things. It depends, on the person. So, and I agree, it's all the right combinations needed for the outcome and for some people that's nutritional, and other people it's emotional and stress, and other people it's finding their spiritual path. That can be definitely, that and ancestral healing as well. That could be something for that person too. So, yeah.
There's definitely something for them to look at, and in that process, we're going to be birthing a new health, integrated system where they're working together. Or it's gonna maybe as that we hold that vision, thinking that's how it's going to be, it turns around to be like Corona, and there's something else that just shifts the dynamic and says, this is what's going to be different for you. Right.
Yeah.
I feel we've been waiting for this for a long time with what you're declaring, that there's just, if they were working in tandem or somehow, when do you have wellness sort of, or offices, there are people let's say that they'll have chiropractic, massage,
wellness
centers, right? Yeah. So why can't there be a wellness center, for instance, but a medical doctor in that space? So the medical doctor is there, and then that's the space, and it's hello, you can just go over here to book an appointment with the acupuncture, or
I think they do. They're called functional medicine wellness centers, but I have a feeling that they don't get the level of Medicare, because when you hear someone going to see one, they go, it's very expensive.
Okay.
And and so if you go the allopathic route, your tendency is to get a lot of it free, and and then you have to pay for it, and people don't realize how much money it costs to have all the hospitals. It's just all the tax money is used to fund it, and there's billions being paid. And I guess they talk about private companies as well, but the public system is mostly the taxpayers, and we don't realize. And that's why when COVID hit and they were really asking, please social distance, please reduce this, don't let it just do its thing, because we don't have the beds. Right. We don't have the level, because it's very expensive. It's, anyway, but then we get it free, which is a blessing. I think it's great. I think free healthcare is a wonderful thing, but then we also don't value our health. So most people, a lot of mainstream people go, I'll just wait till, like, I'll just wait to go to the emergency room. And it's like, geez, if you're waiting to that, you're going to be you're like waiting to the end. Right. Everyone's already like, you're going to have a long journey to get back to health if that's when you actually start to seek health. So, yeah.
Well, seeking health, right? Seeking solutions. It's a different space than trying to solve a problem related to health.
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, I think it's when we talk about health, if we view our bodies as healthy, and like you had we each had eczema, as our body was wanting to get rid of something, right? It was wanting to come into a state of balance, but in that process to get it into balance, it was like saying, get out of my body, what this. So our skin was being affected, and we're going like, oh, get rid of this, because that's how we're trained, just to be on the, versus going, okay, there's something that's really happening, that it's releasing, it needs to get out. What's the solution, right? Is a different question than say, what's wrong? So it's maybe in bringing balance into the existence, it's they're coming into an agreement that we're going to have the best interest of the client, because we're going to want to create a solution. It's the solution in that there is a good plan somehow of integrative, partnership, and that they can refer to you, like they send them to the pharmacist to get the drugs. But the framework is different. It's looking at it from, how do we keep them healthy and how do we have a solution? I actually think it's kind of like a shift that has to happen in the system, just as people are saying about racism. Like you can say, oh, but I have a Black person on my board. But if you haven't changed the hearts of the people that are in making the decisions, nothing really is going to change very long. So if we just are trying to say, we'll work together by fixing a problem, instead of saying, okay, we're finding a solution. We know there's solutions of why people our bodies are out of balance. So if we start with putting that hat on, everything shifts, because everybody starts to do things differently.
Yeah, it's true. Fixing, but it's not even fixing the issue, right? It's fixing you. That's what really comes, and that gets really entangled, because it's not you in your greatest spirit who can affect change. It's you in like, there's something fundamentally wrong with you. Let's fix that. And then moving into solutions where it's like, well, it's not you, but it's just that something's out of balance. Okay. And let's look at ways to bring that balance back. And then everything starts to work around it. But I think that it goes and shifts even further to that like you have the ability to shift and create change in your reality and in your inner reality as well. And when you start to realize that ability, it's like, then you start to have hope. You start seeking out, what other way can I understand myself better in different layers. And and then the more empowerment, every time that you do something that you see a change effect in your health, like how empowering that is to find something else. And it's almost like a level of mastery. So using health as like a level of like the mastery of what humanity is possible. And you know all about that, like being able to tap into streams of consciousness and streams of healing and things like that. That's like moving into a level of mastery where like things are possible, and we're so powerful in that we can create that change if we so desire. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Some of those are individualized questions, like if you really desire it. But ultimately, I think it's like if you survey them when everybody goes to vote. Like, I just think if I really, Leah, everything is backwards. Okay, like I really must admit, when I've started to do these handstands up against the wall, and I'm like, this is when things look different when you're hanging upside down the wall or stretching over backwards that way. And it's like the sky is now like the floor, right? And it's like the trees are growing upward, like backwards. They're growing down, and it's kind of like, I think it's Einstein, you said you can't fix the problem with the same brain that created it, or you can't find the solution with the same brain that created it. So we got to kind of turn things around. We got to like shake up the snow globe. We got to go, what we want, a solution that works, that's effective. How that's going to be, it's just like when we talked in March about global party going, we wouldn't have wanted to say, oh, let's get this big virus that everybody's going to like, ooh, we can't go anywhere. Ultimately, because we never would have gotten that that's what would have happened. To see shitty cities, them shutting down everywhere, right? All around the world, it's that simultaneous, it's like, wow, that's amazing that happened. So I guess I'm at the point now where I just want to stay focused on, what I feel that I would like to see in my world, right? That there is this responsibility for wanting people to be well. It's like when Kesha, when she was sharing about like her passion about the art and the mental health, right? It's just like, if everybody was like that in what they were doing because that's what they felt passionate about, it's a whole other vibe.
It's definitely, you're so right. That's a great example, like Kesh, where, like, the whole mental health sphere, right? Oh, there's something fundamentally flawed in me. I need to control my emotional reactions, or I need to fix something in me, versus just pure natural expression of what's going on, and just allowing that happen, the healing happens, but also like you're moving out of there's something wrong with me to my expression is valid. And it's healing in itself through that. It's like a really great example. And but it's the same with the system, right? So when we talk about body work, a lot of the advanced holistic body work, they go, well, you have a pain in your shoulder, but your problem's in your hip. But you think it's in the shoulder. Like, oh, is that the shoulder? Yeah. You think it's in the shoulder, but it's not. It's in the hip, because our bodies aren't working in like isolated things. They're working in balance. The Chinese medicine, like they go, okay, you've got these symptoms, we can feel, and they have the system of working out the right acupuncture point that will release the block, but it will create balance. Yeah, it will create the balance in the chi, which is the whole point. They want your chi to be in a balanced flow. Right. But there's blockage that happens, and then that creates a disease or whatever. So yeah, and it's the same thing. Like we can say the medical system, we can say we want them to change and want them to open up, but it's kind of like the whole movement of like the females feeling unvalued by the masculine, where you rise up, you determine your power, you determine your value, and they'll adjust. So it's like, like if the holistic workers, we find a way to come together. I've got a devious plan, but, I don't think I'm the only one with a devious plan. And that's how powerful, like there'll be other people with plans and all of that energy coming together. We just value what we do, come together, have that network and open invitation for them to come in. The door's always open. We're not going to jump into your field, but we could definitely be helping you, so the door's open. And then as we keep valuing, it's like at some point other people take notice, the enemy, but they're not your enemy. They're just people who have an opposing view at that point in time. So
Yeah, and that's all we can have is a different point of view, right? And I mean, none of us are quite the same. So when do you think this is all going to occur?
I'm already working on it, but I'm also surrendering because intuition, right? The vision came, and I couldn't have got that vision until I started the medical intuition when that came, and I couldn't have done that without experiencing. So that's just like it's come, and it's getting clearer as I keep connecting with it, and then I'm starting the process of intuition for health workshops and just getting especially holistic healers to understand the concepts and how they can tap into their own intuition for themselves, for their clients. And then there'll be other aspects that might need to come together, and then we've got this powerful tool of intuition to help guide us rather than us having to figure it out, which is going to take a good 100 times longer than if we just tap into intuition. And something that it's us, but it's that beyond the vehicle, because we need to parent our own vehicle. We can't get the vehicle. It's like the car running us. We need to give guidance. And so it's like a higher selves that are connected to the all coming down with this already an idea of how we could work best. But yeah, we'll learn. All right, lovely.
Okay, that was that. That was there we go. That was like okay. That was it. It was like okay. That was the end of the global party. That one was like I was like, yes, sleep. There was a word there somewhere.
So right. Well done, Jacqueline, with your massive effort, or even flow in bringing it all together, holding us through 14 plus hours. And a well-deserved sleep after this.
Well, I am delighted, as I said, that you've completed it in this full circle, like in the sense, and that it is the vision. And I think it is spoken because it's just like we talked a couple of weeks ago about when I said 3 years ago, it's 1 billion people being healed. And we're like, what's 1 billion? Let's just do 7.7 now, right? So it's like, I think we can snap our fingers if we open to the concept that it can happen, and it can happen just like we expect to load the latest software app. Maybe your computer's a little slower. Maybe I'm falling asleep over here, but it's all happening.
Yeah, it definitely feels like it's on the journey. And, you talk about the 100th monkey or whatever, like the more that you just pour energy in, even like Florence Nightingale, she just dedicated her life. Right. And created a nursing healthcare system that improved everything. And then I think that was in London, and then all these other countries started. And now it's just a natural part of healthcare. So, yeah.
Yeah. Did you read, Katja had a big long comment there that I didn't even see too. So she's like, and people need to understand how different fields work so they can refer to, well, yeah, that's right, to the right place. And that they actively promote options and take and ideas regardless of the moves and the forces, the focus on the system, and takes the money, honey, that's a big one, right? Takes the money out of the product or their organization's pocket. Because that's what's in it for me. And I think I do feel that that's a shift that's gone on too with COVID, right? That people have started to somehow see it a little different. I know there's still controversy in some of that conversation going on about whose heart is really opening and whose appears to open in order to gain in that same old model. I'm looking like I'm open so I can gain your trust, but it's not.
Well, there's controversy because there's like we live in this world where you can have a million different paradigms and points of view. I mean, like the whole Black Lives Matter, like one of the biggest things that it's really given to me is like my perspective is really blinkered, and now it's opened my perspective of another point of view, but also the blinkering of my perspective.
Right.
And so, but we can all have multiple paradigms happening at once. And so, and health is possible, a new system's possible. The money's an illusion anyway. It's just a trade or a promissory note, like, and we can operate differently at any point. Anything's possible, Anyway.
We will
it's time to end.
It's
So
time to end. We thank you all for watching and continuing and to share your stories of healing from the inside out, because each one of us is a light. Each one of us makes a difference when we just are our natural, essential self.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Thank you, everybody.
You. Thank
love,
you.
Love to all. Love to you. Bye.
Good night. Good morning. Good afternoon.